Welcome to Jennifer with Coffee, a mindset podcast for people who are looking for real change. I'm Jennifer Lauer, writer, yogi, and fitness fanatic. Lately, I've been having lots of coffee meetups, long, honest conversations that delve into mindset, identity, choices, and habits that shape our lives. I kept thinking how I wanted to share these conversations, so here we are. Each episode moves in 3 beats: an inspirational story, an interview with thinkers, builders, athletes, and artists, people who want to share their own transformations. And we'll end with a brief meditation to practice calming the nervous system. If you've been connecting with the stories and conversations here, I've also written some fiction that explore emotional spaces. One is an AI dystopia, and the others are part of a paranormal mystery series. So if you're ever curious, you can find them on my website, jenniferleelauer.com. Today's inspo is Rampage of Appreciation. This is an idea by Abraham Hicks. It is where you list out all of the things that you're grateful for, and you just keep going as long as you can. It's a surefire way to lift your mood and can also bring attention to things you might have missed otherwise. I encourage you to try going on a rampage of appreciation. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll be in the car by myself and I'll turn off my podcast or audiobook, which is usually what I'm listening to. Just start listing out loud all of the things I'm grateful for. Think about all of the magical things that are in my day or in the moment. One of my favorite times to try a rampage of appreciation is when I'm feeling low or feeling upset about something. It really does help lift your mood, even when you're sure that it's not going to. It always works every single time. So I am going to list out a few things from one of my rampage of appreciations. Whispers in the click of dog paws. First sip of morning coffee. A silent sunrise. Children unbridled. Warm cookies. Unencumbered embrace. Favorite song at the perfect time. Taste of cinnamon. Sound of a loved one calling for you. Feeling of grace. So those are just a few of the things that I listed in a rampage of appreciation. I encourage you to go out and list out the things that you're grateful for, say them out loud, write them down in a journal, or just think them in your mind. Before I released my first episode of this podcast, I wrote a Substack article called Start Now. In the article, I talked about how it was writing my first novel, The Girl in the Zoo. How the only way I was able to finish was by pushing past perfectionism and fear. Starting before you're ready is something that I really think helps when you're on a journey to complete a goal. Here I am on episode 8, which means we are 8 weeks in on this project and only just beginning. There are so many worthwhile things in life that you just have to take one baby step toward. And once you do, you end up saying to yourself, why didn't I start this sooner? This podcast is an example of exactly that. I wasn't sure what it would be or how it would form or what it will evolve into. And honestly, I still don't know. I do know that I'm curious about people and about that time in their life where they transform from one version of themselves to the next, because we're always reinventing ourselves. And that moment sometimes can only be seen in retrospect, and also often difficult to describe when you're going through it yourself. So these interviews have been my offering as a way for us all to see how many different people on many different paths navigate the changes that life inevitably brings. Sometimes you start something and you wonder, why didn't I start this sooner? Or you might start something you'd always wanted to do and decide, perhaps this is not for me. And either way, it's information. And knowing that can save you a lot of time and also relieve that what if possibility. Even if it doesn't work out, it's still doing something to add to your life. I've mentioned that in Bronnie Ware's book, Regrets of the Dying, she discusses how on their deathbed, most people regret the things they didn't do in life. So that's just another reason to make at least some effort towards something that you've always wanted to do. And sometimes I find there are things that I did want to do when I was a little kid or something that I wanted to do when I was a teenager, and I forgot I even wanted to do it. And then the universe kind of throws a little hint toward me. And it is our job to follow the hints in our life. I like to say I'm following the breadcrumbs of my life. When something comes along that interests me or I'm curious about, I want to follow it, even if it doesn't lead to some amazing goal accomplished. Even if it just leads you to knowing, yeah, that wasn't the right path. I think I'll turn around now. It's like being in a maze, and when you get to the dead end, you turn around and you go looking for new possibilities. So really, I just wanted to encourage you that if there's something you really want to accomplish in your life, a bucket list goal, or even a more modest skill that you'd like to acquire, make one little step toward it today. Sometimes I can be a bit of a dream bully because it's one of my greatest delights to see or hear of someone accomplishing a dream. I have this friend, Kara. I was talking to her about a goal of photography, and she even bought a camera, and it was sitting in the box. She told us this. I encouraged her to take it out of the box. That's all. No other steps. She didn't have to read the manual or play around with it. Just take it out of the box. And she did. And I'm happy to report she has now taken some beautiful photos. That's really all I'm asking you to do today. If you have a camera in a box, just take it out of the box. If you would like to start walking in the morning, just put your running shoes by the door. Just do the one little step. I think sometimes when we just put that little bit of effort in, we'll find out whether it's important enough to continue on. So this is my encouragement to you. Have you always wanted to play guitar, dance the salsa, write a book? A first small step could be you watch a YouTube guitar lesson on your favorite song. You look up an adult salsa class in your town. You buy yourself a pretty notebook and write at the top of the first page, "My novel." Honestly, the smaller and more doable your first step, the more likely you'll go beyond it. And hey, say you watch the video of the guitar lesson for your favorite song and you decide that it looks too hard or not how I expected, not sure that you want to do that. At least you made an effort. So someday you won't say you regret not trying. A try can be anything. Okay, I will also offer you a book recommendation. I read the book called Start, Punch Fear in the Face, Escape Average, and Do Work That Matters by Jon Acuff. He writes great books about productivity, and I just feel like since I'm talking about starting and like doing the little thing, he has some great advice on getting started with something. Because sometimes you just need to read a book to tell you to start. Sometimes you need a couple of nudges before you actually do that tiny little thing. All I'm doing here today is encouraging you to do that tiny little thing toward what you might be interested in. If you're not sure what you even want to do, maybe think back to when you were a kid. I'll give you an example because I follow the breadcrumbs of my life. I've done lots of out there things. One of them is when I was little, there was this TV show about the circus. I always had this dream of flying on the trapeze because I saw this show as a kid and I was like, that looks so magical to be flying on the trapeze and being in the circus. Years ago, I came across a class on learning how to fly on the trapeze, and I remembered that little girl self who wanted to be in the circus. I was like, well, this is my opportunity. It was kind of far away, but I did take this class and I did fly on the trapeze, and it was really hard and really scary. I have to say, climbing up the little mini ladder on the side before you put your hands on the bar to actually swing from a trapeze, I didn't realize that I was afraid of heights even a little bit, but this proved to be really terrifying. But by the time you get up there, there's nothing much more to do than actually complete this task. I will be sure throughout the podcast to tell you about all of the little breadcrumbs that I follow. Flying on the trapeze was very exciting. The big move that we were learning in this first class, which was, now I look back and I'm like, wow, that was intense was to swing with your arms holding on the trapeze, and then there was another trapeze artist, a professional, coming from the other side, and he was hanging upside down, and you were supposed to jump from the trapeze with your hands, grasp his hands, and swing, and then let go and fall onto the net. That was pretty far below you. I was very nervous to try this. I had to do it, I think, 4 or 5 times before I actually made the leap and landed the stunt. However, I think my trapeze career was short-lived because it was fun and beautiful in the moment, but it turned out to not be my career goal to join the circus after all. If you have this little inkling, or if you think back to when you were a kid of what you had always dreamed of trying, maybe it wasn't the trapeze for you. Maybe it was meeting a certain exotic animal, or maybe it was to be a veterinarian and you could go to the zoo and ask them for a special tour behind the scenes and see what it's like. All I'm saying is sometimes you find a really exciting thing that you can look back on and say, yeah, I'm glad I tried that. Like, I am glad that I tried the trapeze, even though I didn't end up in the circus. That dream is never going to be in my list of regrets because I did get that opportunity. So this is my encouragement for you to start something today. And I'll leave you with the Chinese proverb that states, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. For solo episodes, I've decided to shout out local coffee spots. No affiliation, just places I've enjoyed a good coffee. This past weekend, we were down in the South Bay for my kids and found this great little spot, Ambrosia Coffee Roasters in Wilmington. They had a nice espresso bar, good music, local art, and importantly, the cold brew was tasty. I highly recommend, if you're in the area, Ambrosia Coffee Roasters. A request before we take our breaths today. We're putting together our first Q&A episode, and we'd love to hear from you. It could be a question about your life or even something discussed on the podcast. If you feel like sharing, send your questions my way at Jennifer Lee Lauer on Instagram or email at questions@kingsofcontent.com. That's content with a K. So at Jennifer Lee Lauer on Instagram or questions@kingsofcontent.com. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Finally, to end each episode, we take 3 intentional breaths together. Let's take our 3 breaths and let go. Just allow whatever moment you are in to develop. Allow your shoulders to relax, your hands to unclench, and your jaw to release. And let's take a deep inhale and slow exhale. Another inhale, filling up the lungs. And exhale, pushing every last bit of air out. And one last inhale. And we exhale, surrendering to whatever is in this moment. Just be here. Simple. Be. Thank you for listening to Jennifer with Coffee. Follow us on Instagram at Jennifer with Coffee and on Substack. This has been a Kings of Content production. Music by Oreo CC.